My husband suddenly moved his disabled adult siblings and an entire full-time care team into our home without even discussing it with me. When I confronted him about the lack of communication, he coldly told me that he loves them more than me and that they will always come first, no matter what. My husband and I, a 32-year-old woman and a 37-year-old man, have been married for 5 years. His twin siblings, a male and female in their early 20s, have developmental delays both physically and mentally. While they manage basic self-care like hygiene and eating, their fragile bones and mental capacity, similar to a 12 or 13-year-old, mean they need supervision, meal preparation, and assistance with stairs or extended movement. Financial independence isn't possible for them given these circumstances. I was aware of all this when we were dating, but at that time, a team of nurses and caregivers looked after them outside our home. However, a few months ago, their care team was dismissed. My husband informed me he intended to move his siblings in, and within about a week, they were settled, along with a new care staff. I had no input or even much advance notice about any of this. Our home quickly filled with personnel. Someone was constantly present, essentially eliminating our privacy. My husband already has a demanding schedule as a doctor frequently on call, and now it feels like we barely have personal time. I'm contending with every aspect of our lives and everyone in it. We had been planning to start a family, feeling settled and content, but now everything feels chaotic, and I'm unsure how to process it. I'm experiencing a profound sense of loss, feeling utterly without control. It seems as though he discarded our future and plans, however harsh that may sound. We had a conversation, and divorce seemed inevitable, but I'm left with such bitterness. It feels like he's simply giving up, while he perceives me as lacking consideration. I love him immensely and want to try to save our marriage before making any hasty choices. Any guidance would be greatly appreciated. It's also important to mention that his parents are estranged. I've never met them, not even before our marriage. He cut ties with them some time ago for very valid reasons. Update 1: After considering everyone's perspectives and taking some personal time to reflect, I sat down with my husband when he was not on call to discuss everything that had transpired. He expressed a similar desire to talk, and we had a profoundly honest conversation. We addressed the central issue I raised previously. I conveyed how hurt I felt by his lack of consultation or even notification about the changes. He offered a sincere apology, explaining that his mind was solely focused on his siblings' predicament, which I understood, even though it still affected me. Then, he admitted something he needed to be forthright about, acknowledging it might impact our relationship. He shared that the situation with his siblings and their former care team intensified this realization. He became quite direct, stating that while he loves me more than anything, his love for them is deeper, and he must prioritize them above all else from this point forward. He conveyed that he couldn't bear anything else happening to them and that all his actions, the cameras, the staff moving in, were essential. While this was naturally painful to hear, and despite my continued understanding of the overall situation, I had some insights. He may have acted impulsively at first, even if it was understandable. However, my own reaction could have been better. I admit he was visibly breaking down before me, reliving past trauma that echoed his childhood, and I was too absorbed in my own feelings to offer genuine support. This realization made me feel terrible. I didn't elaborate on it much in my earlier post, but his parents were truly dreadful. Their neglect originally caused the twins' developmental and regressed state. Had he not cared for them when they were small, they might not have survived. They are extremely attached to him, almost like young children with a parent. As difficult as it was, I accepted that I could not come before their bond. I was aware of his legal obligations before we married, so I knew they were important to him. I harbor no ill will towards the twins. They are innocent in all this and inherently precious in their own ways. Regarding our future plans, we agreed to wait a few years, no more than 3, before truly deciding if we want to have a child. We were somewhat undecided before, but I was increasingly drawn to the idea of motherhood, perhaps more than I realized. He was also very open to establishing designated staff-only and me-only areas. This has already been partially implemented, with more arrangements to be made, and I already feel much better about it. Finally, I realize this might seem like a foolish choice to some, especially to those who would immediately opt for divorce. However, I now have all the facts and understand his position. Therefore, anything that happens from now on will be entirely my responsibility. I feel hopeful about my decision and have no desire to give up. For him and the marriage I still cherish so deeply, I am willing to try and adapt to our new normal. My sincere thanks to everyone who provided assistance. Thank you, everyone. I'm logging out of this account now. I valued some advice more than others, but I read all opinions. Overall, I am content with my decision and look forward to what the future holds for us. Whether we have children or not, with the resources we possess, I am confident we will work things out. We both understand each other's positions and what we have committed to. We will revisit that conversation when we make our decision. We love each other, whether some choose to believe it or not. Thanks again. Update 2. This is a somewhat lengthy post, so a heads up. I've always been rather undecided about having children. Throughout my life, I've cycled through phases of being certain I wanted them, then suddenly being unsure, and at times, not wanting to be a mother at all. My life, honestly, was quite uneventful. I observed women in my community having children and gradually found myself drawn to the idea of motherhood, as it seemed exciting and appeared to provide a purpose for those who chose it. Everyone else seemed so certain, and I couldn't grasp why I wasn't. I married my husband, now 39, 7 years ago. He is a successful, affluent doctor with a profound connection to his siblings. More on that later. Marrying him was the happiest day of my life. I am absolutely in love with him. His profession keeps him busy, but it also affords me the opportunity to be a stay-at-home wife and pursue whatever I desire. I did some minor online work, but ultimately, I embraced being a stay-at-home wife, which I enjoy. After marriage, we still waited a while before deciding on children. He has a legal and moral responsibility to his twin siblings, a male and female, now in their early to mid-20s. However, this didn't concern me when considering the possibility of us having a child. Witnessing his interactions with them, his love, sacrifice, and dedication to his responsibilities and to me, confirmed that he was already a wonderful, selfless father. As I mentioned earlier, he has been their legal guardian since he was 18. Yet, he has essentially been their caretaker since birth due to extreme neglect and abuse from their biological parents. Without him, quite literally, they would not have survived. He is their father in every sense but the biological. And they are, quite literally, children due to disabilities caused by the abuse, both physically, small, thin bodies and very fragile bones due to stunted growth, and mentally, in terms of brain development. They function at around a 12 or 13-year-old mental age, very intelligent as children that age are, but unable to care for themselves, and still require supervision for cooking and assistance with movement, such as navigating stairs or walking/standing for long periods. About 3 years ago, we were nearing a decision about children. I was getting older, 32 then, now almost 35, and understood that if I wanted children, I needed to decide quickly. I gave it thought, honestly wavering a bit, but shortly after a mutual friend had a baby, I rediscovered my enthusiasm for motherhood. However, before we could plan, a drastic shift occurred involving his siblings. Due to criminal mistreatment by their previous care team, my husband abruptly moved them into our home without even consulting me. It was a thoughtless error on his part that I eventually came to comprehend. But I frantically posted about it on this site nearly 2 years ago on another subreddit, in a panic about our lives suddenly being upended. I was in a more emotional state then, with all the biological clock running out thoughts in my head about what I believed I wanted. I realize now that it wasn't the best approach, given that people couldn't fully grasp the intricate nature of our relationship, his bond with the twins, or the complexities that couldn't be fully explained without revealing intimate details of their history. I was subjected to a barrage of harsh names: idiot, stupid, and told I had no self-respect, that I would be miserable and bitter for making a choice that didn't involve a hasty divorce, and for taking a more compassionate path. They were certain things wouldn't work out for us, and couldn't wait to read about how they were right in a few years. My husband was accused of being manipulative, monstrous, and selfish. I honestly wasn't anticipating such severe, cruel, and ableist comments, even directed at the twins. He even admitted that not informing me was wrong, apologized, accommodated my established boundaries regarding the twins' staff and designated private areas of the house, and explained his reasoning without being dismissive. He had entered protective/fixer mode. It was an emergency, triggering trauma and flashbacks. It wasn't malicious, though it was inherently disrespectful. More importantly, it was not a typical pattern of behavior for him at all. But apparently, that wasn't enough for the commenters on the post, especially the fact that we agreed to postpone the discussion of children for 2 to 3 years to see if I could adjust to this new normal or if it would be best for us to part ways, given that he would prioritize his siblings if it came down to it. This situation strained our marriage somewhat, but neither of us wanted to give up on each other so easily. On the other hand, I hadn't been completely transparent. I omitted crucial information and took a naive view of what he had told me regarding the twins' significance in his life. He had told me before marriage that he was their legal guardian and how important they were to him, and that he would always be their father. I knew this, but I took his words as more superficial than seriously reflecting on their true meaning. He had also informed me that the plan wasn't for them to remain out of the home permanently. The care team at the separate house was only temporary due to specific circumstances. But again, I didn't properly consider what this could imply for the future. After the incident and the significant change, we had a raw, open discussion, and he bluntly stated that they were his top priority. Considering he is like their father, I accepted that reality. It was a bit shocking at first until my counselor and a few helpful individuals from the post explained that I had essentially entered a marriage with a man who already had children and had seemingly overlooked that fact. Something within me shifted. I began to see love differently and could understand why they came first. Several months passed, then a year. Since then, we have attended marriage counseling, though coordinating around his schedule is incredibly challenging. We've taken a few vacations, some just us, and some with the siblings, and are in a much better place. We have evenings out and time to ourselves when circumstances allow. The initial adjustment was difficult, but it wasn't as devastating as I had been led to believe. My desire for a child, for various reasons, naturally began to wane. Even though the twins have full-time, round-the-clock care from the in-home nursing team, I gradually started spending time with them, sitting with them at breakfast, going into the gardens together, doing puzzles, listening as they talk about their favorite things and how much they love their father. Something happened that I never thought would. I began to develop a maternal affection for them. I am embarrassed to admit it, but I was skeptical that it was possible to form such an attachment to older children who weren't your own, or to anyone who wasn't your spouse or biological children. I used to feel like I had no purpose. Even after marrying my husband, I couldn't decide what I wanted. Perhaps that's why I waited so long into my 30s. My counselor also planted an interesting thought in my head. Do you truly want children, or are you looking for a purpose? As I said, my life used to be quite uneventful. But now I am so passionate about causes like disability awareness and child abuse awareness, and I've become involved with numerous foundations. With our financial resources, I feel like I can genuinely make a difference. And I've always wanted to be a children's book author. The twins really enjoy children's books much more than chapter books. My husband and I have grown closer through our shared affection for them. I may not be their mother, but I genuinely care for them. I no longer have many conflicting thoughts about children. I don't think I want any at all. And this feeling of indifference has been consistent for a while now. I know some people will probably still think I'm foolish, or that I was manipulated into caring for them even though they have staff, or that this was his elaborate plan all along. He never asked me to, and he still doesn't fully trust the staff, which is why we still have cameras in their designated areas where they spend time with the twins. But I am genuinely happy with my life now and envision a bright future for all of us. I never thought I'd log back into this account. I had forgotten about it for a while. This isn't about gloating or a gotcha moment for me. I understand that some people were genuinely trying to help, offering tough love, or looking out for me. I was inspired to share this on this site one last time to offer my own perspective. Motherhood and love were topics I was so hesitant about, but they manifest in many forms. I saw this further through a mutual friend's adoption of two older children, aged 12 and 7. As women, whether you have children or not, if there isn't a sense of purpose within you, it won't bring happiness. For some women, children are their purpose and bring them joy. For other women, being single and enjoying their life, hobbies, and relationships is their purpose. I don't believe having children would have made me happy or given me a purpose as I once thought. The very people everyone warned me would ruin me actually led me to discover my purpose, all without the risks of pregnancy, possible postpartum depression, and stress. I simply want to be with my husband and the twins and continue to lead a pleasant life. Thank you to anyone who read to the end. This is more of a reflection and hopefully can be uplifting to women out there who might be grappling with thoughts about motherhood, children, marriage, purpose, or self-confidence. Never allow others' assertions to dictate your life. I'm so glad I didn't succumb to the reality everyone tried to push me into. Next story, my father intended to bequeath our entire family business to my older brother, leaving me nothing, despite my doing all the physical work. Consequently, I resigned, and their largest client offered me a position that ultimately caused my family's company to close. My father owns a business where my brother and I both work. My dad plans to leave the family business exclusively to my older brother. He maintains this makes the most sense because my older brother is his eldest child and has been involved with the business the longest. He also possesses a business degree and has a greater understanding of the administrative aspects of this work. While I excel at the physical demands of the job, I was a bit impetuous in my youth, so he doesn't believe it would be wise for me to be in charge. To be frank, I don't think it would be either. However, considering my significant contributions to this business and the fact that I am also his son, I believe I should at least have some input in the business's future and a stake in the company. Not even half, but some portion. In the end, my father refused, stating I would receive some money after his death. The entire situation truly infuriated me, and I began to feel resentful continuing to work there and be around them. So, I submitted my 2 weeks' notice. I've tried to maintain a neutral demeanor throughout. This week is my final week, and Jared, the representative for our biggest client, inquired if I could manage another project next week. I informed him I would pass that along to my brother, but that I wouldn't be working there next week. Jared and I communicate frequently and are quite friendly, as I'm the one who primarily handles this work. We've even socialized outside of work a few times. So he asked why I was leaving. I simply replied it was for personal reasons. He asked where I would be working, and I told him I wasn't sure yet, because there aren't many businesses needing employees with my specific skills. Anyway, today while I was working, Jared's boss approached me and asked if I would consider working for their company. He mentioned he had been contemplating bringing all this work in-house for a while, but had difficulty finding someone experienced since it's such a specialized field. He said he has always been very pleased with my work, which is why they consistently request me. He offered me a 3-year contract, and a salary is considerably more than I would ever have earned at my dad's company. Additionally, it includes benefits and an office. I'm unsure what I'll do with an office, but that seems quite appealing. I also get to select the equipment and can hire 2 employees to work under me. Overall, it's an incredible offer, but I know that losing this client will severely impact my family's business. At the same time, it's not as if I sought this out or tried to poach their client. He was the one who approached me and wanted me. I considered perhaps using this as leverage with my dad to gain some input and a stake in the company, but honestly, I don't want to acquire it that way, and I simply don't want to work with either of them anymore. I truly regret mentioning the bargaining chip in my post. People seem to keep fixating on me doing that when I explicitly state afterward that I don't want to and no longer wish to work with him. It was just a fleeting thought, everyone. Seriously, I am not actually planning on bargaining or negotiating with my dad or brother. Update: it's been a while since my initial post, and things have been resolved. It seemed a good number of you believed it was acceptable for me to take the job. A few suggested I should inform my dad and brother about the situation before accepting the offer, so as not to blindside them. That's what I did the day after my original post. The conversation itself didn't go very smoothly, however. They became quite angry. My dad stated this was precisely why giving me a share of the business would have been a poor decision, claiming I'm selfish and only think of myself while he's striving to keep over a dozen people employed. My brother accused me of essentially betraying the family because I didn't receive something I supposedly didn't deserve from them. I didn't exactly wish to remain around them after that, so I simply walked out early that day and decided not to complete the rest of the week I had intended to work. Later, I called to formally accept the job. The equipment we ordered only arrived last week, so I was essentially paid to stay home and do nothing for the first few weeks. It was actually pleasant to have a break from everything before diving back into work. Things have been quite good at the new place, though. My new workspace is significantly different and much nicer than my dad's shop. It's spacious and open, has air conditioning, and assigned parking, so no more battling for a street spot. The office they provided me isn't huge, but it's also pleasant. As I mentioned in my previous post, I don't have much use for an office, but it's still nice to have a private space to myself, especially one with a mini fridge. Overall, I definitely feel much more valued here than I ever did working with my dad. Speaking of which, I haven't spoken to my dad or brother since, and I don't anticipate I will. I heard from Jared that right after I left following our discussion about the job, they had called my new boss and attempted to dissuade him from hiring me. I also heard from a cousin that my dad's business isn't doing particularly well right now. They've had to let some people go and are downsizing. Some of their other clients had closed their businesses due to circumstances, so that, combined with permanently losing their major client, hit them hard. Anyway, there isn't much more to add than that. Many of you were correct that this situation likely caused permanent damage to my relationship with my father and brother. But I still want to express my gratitude to everyone who encouraged me to take the job,